I'm going to keep track of time here. I want to thank Malvern for the series and for putting together tonight's reading, and it's an honor and a lifelong goal to read with Michael on Anania this evening. So for me, this is a great pleasure. I'll read mostly from the sort of an extended chapbook, is what they call it, at the publisher that I have with this. But I'll probably throw in 2 new poems from a manuscript I'm working on now. This first piece is called Tremor. When it started, she was still looking for her face in the circle of water that pooled every morning on the black granite countertop. Somehow, in the diurnal ritual of coffee and toast, she created always this small puddle that stilled into the only mirror she trusted to start her days. It always needed a moment for her features to pull into focus. She'd mistake the reflection of a track light for a glint in her eye, or find a new beauty mark in a crumb on the skim of the water. This time, before her eyes could find her eyes, the floor pulled loose and set the puddle running like a river to a waterfall at the edge of the granite. She was just able for 1 second to see what she had found of her flesh elongate, stretched from chin to sandy hair into little more than a thread, and vanish at the end of the counter. She gasped and threw both hands forward to grasp the granite, not to keep from falling, not in mind of the earthquake's power to cast her like a doll onto the floor, or to call down a hail of plaster and pans and fixtures freed from the ceiling into gravity, not in the need to get to the door, not even aware of the tumbler at all. Not yet. She held herself up, shut her eyes, and opened them, so that there would be before her simply a trickle of water, not a quicksilver looking glass, carrying her right off the edge of the world. I don't always read this poem, but I probably should this particular night. It's called Recurrence. Good dreams are that because they allow you to touch the object of your desire without the end of anticipation. A smooth pillar of stone is cool despite the sun that inflames the hills in the west. And cool is the hand just before contact with the stone, and in contact, and contact lost, still, it is cool. I dreamed not a pillar, but a smoothness all the same. Not a smoothness, but a chill, as of fruit on a day of air unmoving. Not a chill, but anything that could be turned to stone. Flesh, blankets pulled up over flesh and rippled in stillness, like the folds of fabric Bernini found beneath marble. The heart on hearing the news. A dream of soft things gone to hardness. This tumor, like the first ones, was hard from the start, solid in its invisible burgeoning. In half sleep, I dreamed my sister's desires because I could not know them, except to know that they had no object, only the lack of objects. No anticipation, no inflammation, no sun-made heat that my cold hands could cool. Out of sort of what the cartoon Pogo used to call sheer cussedness, I feel like a cancer poem should always be followed by a poem called In Praise of Mortality. Lords over fragile things, but not fragile themselves, the gods have rarely suffered beauty gladly. A stone loosed from its mountainside mooring that falls into the gorse and fans the flattened fronds out, creating a cavity, so like that space in the chest where the heart of the passerby, so nearly crushed, begins again to beat. This does not impress. What can a heartbeat mean to the gods, who made the engine of the blood a clockwork toy, wound it up, turned it loose, and soon lost interest. The briefly treasured doll, so driven, may be crushed by the stone, may not. She may catch her breath to behold the sliver of tangerine sun caught at its vanishing behind the peak of the stone's fall, or she may not. She may not see the sun, or seeing it, she may give her breath instead to a sigh at the thought of the sounds she'd have missed, just a step to the right, the cry of an ember snapped from a pine log at dusk, the whistle-smooth S of the voice of a man she has met only once and now misses. She has a breath to give, and this is all. All she needs to outstrip the graceful gods in grace are the heart almost stopped and the lungs nearly stilled. What do the gods know of gratitude? The sting of the sweat's salt in the eye of she who beholds her own going on, who knows that one day the stone will not miss, who knows that she will breathe and not like the gods, without body or breath to bleed. So this poem was largely driven by prepositions, which is kind of a strange thing to say about a poem. And I can't explain that. It's called Kiss. What the tires are said to do to the curb when I drop you off next to buildings whose shadows lean toward you is what you do to the tips of your uncurled fingers now that you are not beside me, clutching at the straps of your bag. You smile and pucker just enough to blow as you reach the shadows and turn, and I breathe a few slow breaths before my foot eases back. Prepositions are the worst. With off, you scatter dandelion seeds, a mere flick of your freckled wrist, to show me how you said goodbye to someone whose name you've never mentioned, my never mentioning. And up is what you call me, when I say, you're better left to arms not yet known, if the summer scent you bring into a room was not enough to hold him fast. It's a dance we know well, needing no choreography to keep us from colliding. I tell you that I have seen figures in sandalwood so fierce that in silhouette they grow to fill any aperture, wrought just so that the maker's hands not be idle, that woodwinds play, that breath have voice, that canvases stretch to be touched with color, that I return to you your words, simply to give my lips something to do. So I did not grow up in Texas. Never been to Texas until the day I interviewed for a job that brought me to Texas. So occasionally I find myself writing about these things that are probably, as subject matter anyway, cliches in Texas, but they're all novel to me. One of the first things I ever wrote about in this state was Dinosaur Valley State Park. You know the place in Glen Rose? Which is famous for these remarkably well-preserved footprints, dinosaurs. And, you know, when I was a kid, I was like all little boys. I was obsessed with dinosaurs for years. I don't know what I would have done with dinosaur footprints when I was 7. I think I probably would have passed out. So this is at Dinosaur Valley, Glen Rose. Texas sugarberry in the bottoms, willow, cottonwood on the sandstone banks, river waters run brown, have done for 1 million years, give or take, wearing down to bedrock, revealing the famous footprints kids sit in when the Paluxy runs low. Othniel Marsh called it a Apatosaurus. 1877, a headless skeleton shouting, "Time is not new, is not the purview of the small or fragile." Marsh called his next god Brontosaurus, a name carried to Texas with Sinclair Oil's fiberglass mock-up of the fearsome beast. He was wrong, of course. Deceptive lizard, thunder lizard, 2 species, same genus. Naming is no more a straight line than this river, meandering through hills of oak, ash, juniper, and mesquite. The children laugh in the feathered sunlight, find sticks to etch their initials with heart-shaped frames in muddied patches of the exposed riverbed.